Hey Islanders, and welcome to episode 50 of the Camano Voice. On this episode, I interview the gift buyer at Camano Commons Marketplace. Please welcome Cristy Santeford. Hi, I'm Brandon Erickson, and you're listening to the Camano Voice podcast, where I interview folks around Camano Island and beyond. If you want to stay up to date on events, businesses, and even hear a little history of this area, subscribe to this podcast and share with your friends. Thanks for listening. Hey Islanders, and welcome to another episode of the Camano Voice, where we release a new episode every Tuesday. And guys, I just want to take 2 seconds and say we did it. We are at episode 50 of the Camano Voice. So we are at a pretty big milestone. I didn't know if we would make it here that quickly. I was hoping. But anyways, I know I've got some people out there that listen to this, so that's exciting. And I just want to say thank you guys. It's pretty exciting for me to be able to do episode 50. And I really wanted to figure out a special guest for this episode because, you know, it is kind of a small milestone. And so I was trying to figure out, okay, who is a person that I could interview that has meant a lot to me and our business and just someone that really stood out to me. And I couldn't think of someone better than Cristy Santeford. So she has been our gift buyer for the marketplace. But before that, she actually started with a coffee roaster company, Camano Island Coffee Roasters. She started as a roaster there. And she and her husband, Glen actually used to be our master roaster for a while there too. So lots of connections with their family. But they actually lived down the road of where the coffee roaster started. So when she started working there, we were still living above their house, and we were basically roasting coffee out of our barn, or rather my dad was. And so anyways, she just had to drive up the road to go to work. So anyways, it was really fun talking to Cristy because, I talk to her on a regular basis about work, but I don't know all of the history of how she got to where she is now. Plus, she's obviously had an extensive background in gift buying, but I never knew any of what that was. So had a great conversation with her. So anyways, without further ado, please enjoy my conversation with Cristy Santeford. Hey Islanders, it's Brandon with Camano Voice, and today I'm here with the gift buyer at Camano Commons Marketplace. Welcome to the podcast, Cristy Santeford.
Thank you for having me today.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this podcast because I've worked with you for many years and known you for even longer, but I haven't actually interviewed and sat down and kind of heard your whole story. So before we get started with everything, tell us a little bit about Cristy.
Well, you want to know where I grew up?
Yeah.
All right. I grew up in Arlington, Washington, not too far from here. And I had a lot of things in my childhood, campfire, church, the normal stuff, and had a mom and dad and a sister. Then moved to Marysville, graduated from high school there, not too far away from Arlington. So I've been around here all my life. And then I married my, I guess you'd call him almost my childhood sweetheart, because I met him in high school. And he's from Snohomish, and Marysville and Snohomish had quite the rivalry, but that was okay. I got teased a lot for marrying a Snohomish boy. So then we had 2 sons, Matt and CJ, and we spent 20 years raising our sons in Marysville, at which time after my kids were old enough, after they started in middle school, I went to work part-time at a little gift shop in Marysville on 3rd Street. And from then, after that, I went to work for a gift manufacturer where I traveled and did the gift shows twice a year throughout the United States. And we had a production, kind of it was a cottage industry gift manufacturing company called Hearts and Flowers. And it was a lot of women, and a lot of women that were moms, and the owner, she just wanted to have something that moms could stay home with their kids and make a living wage for the kids, and then so she did cottage industry, and then we sold it nationwide. And so I would go to all the gift shows and I would sell the products, and I would also look for new ideas for new products, and then I would purchase a lot of the items too while I was looking at the gift shows. So I traveled for about 10 years.
Okay. So going back to childhood then, so you said you lived in Arlington. What was it that made your family move from Arlington to Marysville?
Well, my mom and dad wanted a new house.
Okay.
And they couldn't find one in Arlington. There wasn't a lot of builders, so they were looking for a brand new house. They wanted a Rambler, and so they found one in Marysville, and they moved. And with my heels ground into the ground, so that because I didn't want to go and leave my friends. I was in the 7th grade. It's very traumatic for a teenager to be uprooted from all of her friends and then go live in a new town. So
yeah. How did what was your parents' careers?
my mom was actually a bookkeeper from the time she was out of high school until she retired at Arlington Hardware.
Okay.
So she kept the books for them, and my dad was a mechanic.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Very cool. So since you touched on it, how did you end up meeting your husband, Glen?
Well, at a basketball game in Marysville.
Was this a big rivalry game then?
It was a very big rivalry game, yes. Yes. In fact, his cousin and I were really good friends, and she introduced me, and then so after that, I happened to be her maid of honor at her wedding, and Glenn came from boot camp, and then we started dating after that, and so then we got married.
Very cool.
Been married for 48 years.
Oh,
so.
Congratulations. So then, so you said, so during the time that your kids were at home then, were you doing homeschooling, or were they going to public, or?
Oh, no, they went to Marysville.
Okay.
Yes, because I did do a lot of like little home jobs, babysitting other people's kids when my kids were little, so I could stay home and do a little extra house cleaning for some people, so I have a little extra income. But mainly, I stayed home with the boys and was there and room mother and all that sort of stuff at their schools, and did all sorts of things like that for them. You know, was Sunday school teacher, all that, those sort of things that I did with the kids. So
yeah. There's never an end of things to do as a mother.
And they were involved in every seasonal sport, so there was always taking and making sure they got to sports.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and then you said you got started at a gift shop in Marysville. Is that one still around, and what's its name?
And it's not there anymore. It was called Nature's Cash.
Okay.
And at Nature's Cash, there were baskets, and back in the day there was macrame, there was silk flowers, there was painting and stenciling and different things like that. And I would make flower arrangements. I'd have classes on people coming. They'd take and buy the items, and then we'd make a flower arrangement, or we would have painting classes, and then they would buy the wood item and they'd buy the paints, and we'd do stenciling classes. So there was so I did a lot of that.
Okay. Were you just one of the cashiers there, or were
Yes.
you? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Nice. Was it a pretty busy little shop?
Yes, it was very busy.
Nice.
It was really the only place around at the time to get supplies like that. There was no place in Arlington, or I think there was Ben Franklin up in Lake Stevens, but other than that, that was the only place around to get little specialty items like that and have little classes. So it was really fun.
Oh, okay. Do you know when they shut down?
Well, I can't remember. Sometime right around in the 2000s. I don't know, like 2004 or something. The gal actually retired.
Oh, okay.
So that owned it. So
Got
she retired, and it wasn't because it could have kept going if somebody would have wanted to buy it, but she retired.
Got it. Okay. Okay, and then you said you started working with the gift manufacturer with Hearts and Flowers. How did you get connected with them?
Well, Diane, her last name is Santeford, same as mine.
Really?
Uh-huh.
No relation?
Yeah, she was a relation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she was my husband's cousin's wife.
Okay.
And she was an artist, and she used to do big, huge paintings. And then one day she just decided she wanted to do something little with porcelain and have a little saying on it. And it was a heart, and it had little dried flowers on it where the name came, Hearts and Flowers.
Okay.
And it was something that was needed, and it fit in a lot of the hallmarks. We had a lot of when hallmarks were a big, huge chain. We had a lot of the hallmark stores, mom and pop shops that ordered these hearts with these little dried flowers and sayings on them, and they were shipped out all over the United States. So
Okay.
yeah.
So when you did the gift shows with them, you were out there manning the booth and selling your product to the gift buyers and stuff like that then?
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, we had quite a few big reps that were on the East Coast more so than the West Coast, but big companies from Atlanta and New York and such that would man and or let us have all these. Well, I wouldn't. Let's see. I'm losing my words here. For it was a booth, and then we could sell to all the people that would come in, like the Hallmark stores or the mom and pop shops. They would order our little packets of hearts, and then they take them and put them in their shops.
Okay. So then you said when you were at the gift shows and stuff, you would also do kind of some recon and find other gifts and stuff that were similar. So did you guys start with the hearts and flowers? Did you guys then expand and continue to
Yes,
create
we
new
evolved.
items?
We
Okay.
evolved from hearts, and then we went to these little things we called block buddies that were little square blocks that we made them look like little different kind of people. Some were Santa, some were snowman, some were scarecrows, some were angels. And mainly those little things, when they evolved, they all had little sayings on them.
Okay.
They held something. And then we had stand-up angels. And then we made solid porcelain hearts that had decals and sayings on them. And we
Okay.
made shells and lampshades and all sorts of things
Okay.
after that. Hmm.
Very cool. And then you said, what did you guys have like a manufacturing plant, or you mentioned something about the cottage industry? Were you guys doing, was it more plants or was it more home based?
Well, no, we had an actual facility, a warehouse.
Okay.
And we would get the components together, and we used a lot of we had stacks and stacks. If you went into the warehouse, you would have swore that we were selling Alfie's Pizza, because we used the Alfie's Pizza boxes to line up all the porcelain pieces because they fit in there just perfectly. And then all the components fit in there, and then they would put them together. They would take them out in stacks, and then they would put the items together and then bring them back in those boxes, and then we would put them in the gift boxes back in the warehouse. But this the moms could take them home.
Mm-hmm.
They'd take home maybe, 10 boxes of items, and then they would bring them back, and we had them all, how many, it was piecemeal, but it was all time tested, and so they got a fair wage for it. But if the baby was crying or something like that, they could leave what they were doing, or they could do it at night after they put their kids down, and it wasn't anything that they had to, set for 8 hours a day. They could just do it, and they had a time, they had to bring them back in a week. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, that's very cool.
And so it was all figured out that way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's really neat. I don't feel like I've seen many businesses, in today's age that really do that or have that capability. But I think that's an excellent way for either stay-at-home moms that maybe their kids young enough that they're still able to do something, or if they're a single mom, having something that they can do on the side to help bring in additional income.
And that's what it was kind of set up for. And
Yeah.
then as it evolved and we got bigger, then the time went on, some of those moms stayed with the company and came into the warehouse then, because their kids were either in school or older, and they came in and then they worked inside, because we had kilns that we had to have people unloading the kilns and putting all the items in gift boxes. And then when the porcelain started, then we had to have people we called decalers and people that would take care of all the fine tuning of everything and getting them back in the kiln to fire the decals on and whatever. And we had people that had to put hair with hot glue guns on all these little block buddy things that we made. So so there was a lot of burns on your fingers from getting the hair with the hot glue in those days. Yeah. It was all hands on. It was nothing that was manufactured. We all put it together.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
very cool. And when you got started with them, were you just starting as, did you get started when you still had kids in the house, so you were just kind of on the side as one of the homemakers or cottage?
Well, I had been working at Nature's Cash, and then I was just kind of doing the cottage industry, and then I decided that when Diane said I need somebody to travel, and I thought, oh, this is going to be fun, I'll do that and purchase, because she saw that I was good with numbers and, figuring things out with numbers and how the quantities and things we would need. So she asked if I'd be interested. Well, I couldn't do both. I couldn't work at Nature's Cash, and so I had to leave Nature's Cash, which I really didn't,
Yeah.
I had a lot of customers there that I loved and stuff, so it was hard, but I wanted the opportunity to travel. And because before I met Glen, my whole dream was I was going to be an airline stewardess. So I thought, oh, I can travel. This will be fun. Little did I know that when you travel and go to gift shows, that it isn't all that glamorous when you are in a hotel room by yourself sometimes and nobody around, and you go down and you eat dinner sometimes by yourself, and then you have to stand in a showroom and sell products or set things up or bring stuff with you or whatever, from across the country. So it's not all that glamorous. Airports are not all that glamorous. So,
Yeah, no, I've done very few, but I've done a couple trade shows and stuff like that where, you have to get there, you're setting up, and just like a 14-hour day on your feet, talking to one person after the next. By the end of the day, or for me, it's like partway through the day, I'm like, I hope no one comes to my booth.
Yeah, it got to be like that. Yes. And then if you had to tell them that, oh, sorry, we're sold out now, that was even more so. Well, we only have these to pick from because I've been told we've already gone through this much. I can't get it to you immediately. Well, that was a hardship sometimes, but for the most part, I learned a lot, and it was a great opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. How long were you working with Hearts and Flowers then?
I was working with them for probably 12 years.
Wow. Okay. So you were with them a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Where did you go after Hearts and Flowers then?
I came to work for Camano Island Coffee Roasters.
Oh, okay. Were you still working with Hearts and Flowers when you got brought on, or?
I was.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Yeah. When I went to Art by the Bay 1 year, and I was looking at the different booths, and we were doing some taste testing for coffee, and then your dad, Jeff, he handed me a card, and I looked at his card, and it said Tillicum, and I said, Tillicum, wait, that's right above where we live. And so we got to talking. So when we got to talking, then that led to one thing and another, and he was telling me that he roasted coffee, and that we might smell him roasting coffee. And I said, oh, that's what I smell when I'm out in the backyard sometimes, because it smelled like something was cooking, and I could never figure it out. And I was out in the yard, doing gardening and such. So
yeah. Okay, so you guys met there then, and so you were still working at Hearts and Flowers. How did you eventually join up with the Camano Island Coffee team then?
Well, I went home and I got to thinking about it, and I talked to my husband, Glen, and I said, I wonder if they're hiring. Because at that time, I just thought I'd been traveling back and forth for 5 years to Marysville after leaving, Marysville and moving to Camano. And I hadn't really had a connection with anybody on Camano Island.
Okay.
I really wanted to have a connection with people on Camano. We still went to church in Marysville. Family was still in Marysville, and I worked there, but I lived on Camano Island. So that's when I went over to up the hill and down the street to the coffee roaster and asked if, was a possibility there'd be any hiring. So, and your dad looked at me like I was, because he asked me what I did, and I told him, and I said, but I do cook. I do cook, so I could always learn. And so anyway, he says, well, I can't give you full time. I said, that's all right. I said, I've talked to my husband. I said, it'd be a nice change. I'd like to, to have my relationships grow on Camano rather than, stay in Marysville. So anyhow.
So at this time, was Glen still working?
Yes, he worked for the post office.
Okay.
He was the postmaster at a Clear Lake post office at the time. So he was working.
Got it. What was the state of Camano Island Coffee when you were when you joined up? Like, had we moved from the 1 pound roasters at that point?
Yes. The specialty coffees. One day they needed some Hawaiian, and it was a specialty coffee, and they said, well, you need to roast on the Sid and Jerry. And I said, well, what is a Sid and Jerry? And they showed me, and it was the little 1 pound roaster. But the green roaster, the bigger roaster, had just arrived when I started working there.
Okay.
So that was something that I was asked if I wanted to start roasting coffee.
Okay.
So I did.
Okay.
I learned.
So you started with roasting coffee, and then you were working just part-time in the beginning then?
I was. I worked, I think, 3 days a week.
Okay.
For like 6 hours a day.
Okay. How many people were on the team at that point?
Well, there was your dad and Dan and Yvonne and myself. And then I think there was an accountant at the time.
I think Kathy was still with us.
I think Kathy was there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, so you started roasting coffee. How did it kind of evolve from there then?
Well, I roasted coffee, and then I helped some with the packing of coffee. And out in the front part of the little barn, there was a few retail items. And so your dad one day, there was somebody in there, and they were buying some retail cups and coffee, and he had a couple of thermoses and different things. I can't even remember if he had beans or what. Anyway, they wanted it in a gift bag or box, a basket. And there was some baskets there. Your dad was putting things together, and I said, well, maybe if you just, and I hadn't been there very long, but I said, maybe if you just do this way. And so then he just looked at me and he said, well, you just try it. So I did it, and he said, okay, I'm done, is what he said to me. So he said, this is part of your new job. But so that's how the retail part, he'd had, things that had branded Camano Island Coffee on them, but then he started asking different things, and I told him that I knew of a few gift manufacturers because that's where I'd come from, and I knew of some packaging people, so that's how kind of that little bit of it started.
Okay. Did you help getting, sourcing the the coffee lotion and the different coffee items that he was bringing in?
Not the beans.
Okay.
I was never part of the beans. I did help with the lotion, and I did help with some of the mugs.
Yeah.
And eventually the chocolate beans, and then the packaging, and then it just started evolving, some of the shirts, and it evolved after that into just general gift items and artist items. We did a lot of artist items out here from the artists on the island.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, and then when you had started, had he started the holiday house yet, or is that later down the road?
when I started, he had one holiday house.
Okay.
And the second one, I started in October, and the second one was going to take place in whenever it started, November.
Okay.
So I had worked for about a month or so, and then there was the holiday gift shop, and it was downtown Stanwood,
Yep.
and I think in the Howie Glass building.
Okay.
And so that was the first year I worked, and then all the different artists, and they had the little booths and things like that. And got to do lots of baskets and lots of bows that year. Yeah, put things together. So
Okay. So then when you were doing that, did you help get in touch with the artist and kind of line everything up, or was that kind of already set in motion?
that was already set up.
Okay.
Yes, I was still too new to know too many of the artists at that time. So
Okay.
but got a better relationship with them later on by far.
Yeah.
So
Nice. Okay. So then you, how much longer were you since you started? Were you guys in the barn as opposed to moving here to where Camano Commons is now?
well, I worked that winter. Because I would work with my gloves and my mittens and my hat and everything in the barn until go in there when it was freezing cold until it warmed up. The coffee roaster warmed up the building, and then I could take my gloves and stuff off. So the one winter, and then the next summer was when this complex here at the Camano Commons opened up,
Okay.
and we started in I think July.
Okay.
Yeah, it was an interesting start, as you well probably maybe not remember, but we had to wear hard hats
Yep.
and all sorts of things in the building, and then
Wait, you had to wear them in the building?
oh yeah,
Oh, I didn't know that.
you didn't know that we had to
No.
wear supposedly hard hats. Because I have no idea, but we were wearing hard hats when we first for the first 2 weeks. Had to have the big water tanker sitting out in the parking lot because things weren't. It was but it worked out.
Okay.
Worked out for the best.
Yeah.
So
Wow. Yeah, no, I remember like different aspects of being in the green building now that it's now in. And I remember starting, like I would start doing work. I started working there pretty young, or not pretty young, pretty soon after we had moved here into the green building. But I was like 14 or 15, I think, when I started. And then Xander joined up not too much longer after that. And we started doing cleaning projects and stuff.
right, and doing coffee beans and
Yes.
all sorts of things like that. I remember that.
Yep. So then, did you work a lot of? Now you had finally gotten out of events and stuff like that with your other job. Then did you jump in and were you having to run a lot of the fair booths and stuff like that? Like work those?
No, I didn't have to do a lot of fairs. I did some close ones, but other than that, no, I didn't have to go and do a lot of the fairs. So I mainly stayed. I did the holiday house, and then I stayed just roasting coffee.
Okay.
And then when we got to the green building here on the Commons, then I did customer service. So
Oh,
I
okay.
pretty much, after we moved here, I stopped roasting coffee,
Okay.
and I went into the office, and I pulled the orders through, did the customer service, and then we evolved the gift shop to a larger area out front, and so I had more things to fill more things to order to fill up the gift shop.
Yeah.
So
And then were you also in charge of the espresso bar during that time? Like when he started getting that set up, or was that under someone else's purview?
well, I didn't man that. I mean, I worked that. I went over and I was taught how to make the drinks, but so there was several of us that knew how to make drinks for people, and
Okay.
then it was I kind of oversaw the purchasing of some of the items, but not actually manning the people. So.
Okay. Got it. Okay. And then, so you were, how long were you so I guess after you moved into the green building, you stopped roasting coffee, you started doing more customer service. Were you still like, the manager of like the production side then?
Yes, I did. As things evolved and we got more people on, I did manage and look after the production and order the supplies for the production area at the coffee in the coffee roaster part. All of the bags and the boxes, and made sure that the tapes and all that sort of things, the bubble wrap, all that, I fell under my supervision.
Okay.
So.
Okay. So then you were doing customer service and running that side of stuff. Then how was kind of the birth of the marketplace? I know it kind of started with the little gift shop we had in the front of the roaster, but how did that whole conversation go? Because I kind of know how my dad operates, and I'm curious how he kind of presented that idea to you. So, yeah.
Well, I was, I guess, running out of room. I kept trying to evolve the area of the espresso area, the conference area, the room where you used to be able to have meetings. I took that over for retail, and then plus out front. And I kept saying, if I had more room, I could do so much more, product and make it even more shoppable. And so there was the building next door, the marketplace, just sitting there empty. And it was just kind of like so sad and staring at us. We look out the window and there was that building. And one day your dad just came to me. He says, what if I get the marketplace over there and you fill it and manage the retail and the coffee? And I said, well, how can I do my other job? How can I do the customer service and all of, the ordering for the coffee end of it, the coffee roaster end of it? He says, well, you'd have to leave that. And so I'm not one that really likes, I like changing the decor, but I don't like changing, life too much. So I had to think about it. And I thought, well, this would be kind of fun. I get all my hobbies that I like to shop so much for hobbies and spending. I could spend it on other products that wouldn't have to go in my house, so I could take care of my little addiction that way. So I thought this might be kind of fun. So I told him I would do that. And he didn't have to persuade me a whole lot. And I just said, well, I don't know if I want to be responsible for that much. And he says, oh yeah, you can do it. So, he's pretty persuasive in uplifting you. So,
yeah.
So that's how it evolved. And I was just kind of sad though, because all the people that I'd grown relationships to on the phone for all the Coffee Lover Club members, that I didn't get to talk to them anymore.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for a while it was kind of connected. They would be able to call at the marketplace, and then the coffee roaster, we were kind of together for maybe 6 months to a year, but then after that it just got to be too much to have everything connected. We had to kind of have somebody just specially for the customer service over there.
Right.
So
So then that's kind of it's a very big project to kind of start up a whole new department and everything. How did you kind of go about that?
Well, I just went back to the different gift manufacturers that I knew from all the traveling across the nation. I knew there were certain gift manufacturers, and I kind of wanted to do a more of a beach theme. And then I knew that there were a lot of, at the time, younger families out here. And so I just kind of had an idea that, there was a gift price point that I wanted to stay in and do more beach themes and things that may be attractive to people that that were coming through Camano, and there was nothing on Camano. Well, there was Karen's Kitchen Shop.
Okay. Yeah.
And so, I tried not to do exactly things that she had because she was already established. So
Yeah.
I tried to just augment things that would complement what she had, so that when people came out here for the day, or if they didn't want to have to go into Stanwood or travel any further, that they could, maybe buy a gift or a hostess gift for somebody, or a little birthday present or something like that. So that's kind of how I went about it. And luckily I knew of all the different gift manufacturers from my travels and my showroom stints in the, back at Hearts and Flowers, that I could call on them.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Did we ever carry stuff from Hearts and Flowers?
no, it was, at that time it was already had shut down.
Oh, okay.
It had shut down by the time we got the marketplace up and going.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Very cool. And then how did that, so then from the marketplace, did you ever kind of think that it would continue to grow in the direction and, I don't know, I guess just get as big as it has today?
No, I really didn't think it would evolve like that, but it has just, it's changed. It's great to watch the progress, because there's, we have our customers that come in that are our regulars, but then all the people that have heard about it and they just come up for a day, and they, with everything else that's in the marketplace as it has evolved, with the bakery and the ice cream and just, the coffee and all the different holiday gift shops, have caused more and more people to just make it a destination place to come and see and shop. So
Yeah.
so it's really great. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thankful. I'm thankful that it did work.
Yeah. Well, then how did, because you've been, like, from your experience, you've been in the gift industry for so many years at this point. And something that I've noticed, even in my short time working with you, but over the period of seeing it all happen, you've continued to evolve your gift buying practices and like refine it and we continue to sell out of items and stuff like that on a regular basis. And so how have you kind of continued to evolve like your gift buying habits and things like that so that they continually are appealing to new customers and stuff, or old customers?
Well, I don't know. It's just something that it's kind of intuitive to me, to just, I don't know how to explain it. I kind of watch and look in magazines and books and just see kind of what's up and coming and going on. And if I like it, then I will source out different things and put them in, if it's something that I want to buy, then that's usually kind of what I buy and put in there, and it usually goes. And I found that now it's evolved into more clothing, which I never thought it would. And clothing's tough because you have a hard time getting the right size and the right color all the time and keeping that available. Accessories are way easier than actual like dresses and tops and t-shirts and sweatshirts and things because people say, well, can't you just order me up one? And well, it doesn't quite work that way.
Right.
You have to get larger quantities, so you have to kind of just judge by watching inventory and just kind of knowing your customers. You just have a feel for your customers as to once they buy something, and once you put it in a store, there's kind of a little rule of thumb I go by. If it's noticed right away and it starts selling, then that means it was a good purchase. And then there's staple items that just are everyday staple items that people just want to keep coming back for. They look for them. and if you don't have them, then they go, well, where's that? Where's that little, like, there's something that people have asked me about. Where's those little dish drainers that you used to have that used to have the little crabs or the little starfish? Or, oh, yeah, those, I haven't ordered those lately, but maybe I should order those again.
Yeah.
Because people remember different things that are unique and you don't see them everywhere.
Right. Yeah. Well, and it's like I said, it's continued to evolve, and I've there's certain things that I know other people have, like different team members at times have suggested to try new items, and then I myself have tried a few different items, and they don't always go over well, or they end up sitting there and stuff like that. So I know it's not as easy as it sounds.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to say. I don't know if it's like I think it must be intuition part, just the feeling that I have by it, and maybe when the customers come through the door and I go, oh, have you seen this? Maybe that just me telling them and me liking it. Maybe they like it too. I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't explain it. So maybe it's just luck.
I don't think it's luck if it's this long of a track record. Otherwise, I have really bad luck. Well, thank you so much. I mean, it's just been really. I mean, you're down to only 2 days a week now, but it's great being able to learn from you, and that you have all the history from the roaster all the way to present day, and just you've experienced and seen so many different aspects of the both businesses, the coffee roaster and the marketplace, and so we really appreciate having you. And that's a big part of the reason why I wanted to have you on the podcast for this episode, because it was our 50th episode. So it's kind of one of those milestone ones. And
right.
I was trying to think of someone that would be a good person for that was special and like.
Well,
iconic,
I couldn't think of a better family to work for. So it's been great. It's like working for a family and being part of a family instead of just working as a job. I've always just loved it. That's why I'm still here 2 days a week at my age.
Well, we're glad to have you still.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I like to end every podcast with some rapid fire questions. So the first one is, do you have a lesser known or favorite location on Camano Island that you like to hang out?
Just at my house.
Yep. Guess you guys live on the beach, so
we
it
do.
works out.
Yes, it does.
You don't have to go far.
Don't have to go far, no.
Pretend you have a friend coming from out of town to visit. What would their first day look like here?
Well, I would definitely bring them down to the bakery to have one of those almond croissants, and coffee, of course. And then I'd love to go down to the state park and go through the trail, because that's such a great trail down there. And then come back and have stop off, maybe have a little ice cream cone on the way back to the house, and then sit at the house or go on our own little beach walk and just look at all the boat traffic. It's just so peaceful here. It's hard to, when you have somebody come from someplace else that maybe has been a big city or something, they just are in awe of just how peaceful and quiet and nice it is out here on Camano.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It's something that I've said to many different guests, but it's something we kind of sometimes take for granted, and like the fact that we can actually get to points on Camano Island where you can't hear the cars and it's just quiet, and you can just hear the ocean or birds,
The birds, yeah. We have a lot of birds in our backyard, and just all different kind of varieties, and we just love to watch them.
Yeah. Very cool. Who is an interesting or fascinating person in this community that I should interview next?
Well, we kind of touched on this a little bit. I think you should talk to maybe Jack Dorsey.
Yeah.
I think he would be a great one to talk to. I think he's got a lot of history here, and he knows a lot, and wonderful artist. So
yeah. All right. And lastly, if you could have any message on a billboard on Camano Island right as you're driving up, what would that say?
Come to this place. It's a little bit of heaven.
All right. Well, Cristy, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today.
All right. Thank you, Brandon, for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah. And Islanders, I will talk to you on the next one. Well, a big thank you to Cristy Santeford for joining me on the podcast today, and thank you for listening. If you haven't already, be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast platform. It really helps us be found by other Islanders like yourself. And for more information on this episode or previous episodes, you can go to CamanoCommons.com/EP50. That's CamanoCommons.com/EP50. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.